Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to tell you how I learned to solve and deal with intrusive thoughts. There's a few different things that I've tried, but I found that doing multiple techniques helped me. So there's no do this one thing and it will work, right? So let's start off with why and what exactly was going on, right? So I was having intrusive thoughts, and this has happened several times. Um, Sometimes they're anxiety related, sometimes it's just completely irrational. And what it is a fear avoidance, right? So the way the mind works, or the way I believe the mind works, is you have this ongoing flow of thoughts, right? And it can ebb and flow. Like, you have times where you feel like you have no thoughts in your mind at all, and I would refer to that as flow state, right? So you can have your flow state where there's no thoughts. You can have anxiety, which is like an inability to control the thoughts. And then you have like the medium, like day to day. At any of these stages, obviously without thoughts, like you can't really you can't really like spiral out. But when you get that one thought, there is that possibility that you can spiral out if you have a bad relationship with the thought, if it is tied specifically to a fear, to an experience that you are avoiding, something that felt traumatic to you. Now, this is a very tough thing to do on your own. And like, if you need help, like, obviously go seek help. But be very specific about who you get it from, and try and understand like the process, right? So in my story, I was having these thoughts, and it was ruining my days. It was ruining my states. I couldn't be present. You'd be in the middle of a conversation, the thought comes in, and you're completely pulled out of the present moment. And for me, it was ruining like beautiful experiences that I was having. I was on holiday, and these thoughts are coming in. So the number one step I needed to do, and I didn't do this immediately. I was on holiday. I had other things I needed to deal with. So the number one step: clear out what you're doing. You need some time to sit and do this, right? For myself, I made the decision that I was gonna sit and deal with this until until I was no longer like scared, no longer fearful of that state. I'm gonna sit and observe the thought, ask why, and break my way down to the root cause, and essentially pull the root out and understand what it was. Now, the more intense the thought is, or the more intense your fear is, the harder it is to do this. Because if you associate, if the experience is so strong and you're so deeply avoidant of it, and it's it's okay to be deeply avoidant of it, because it's a survival mechanism, right? And that's what we're trying to do here. Like, by ripping out the root cause, we're essentially allowing ourselves to relax, face the what we would usually like experience, the fight or flight survival like mechanism, and get past that. Understand that what happened is in the past. It's not congruent with your current reality, and you're safe, essentially. So all of these things, and then also just to process the emotion of what was going on, so that you don't have this avoidant like little dot, and this little dot is tied to several other factors. So like, if something happened and it was a friend, then you tied this bad feeling to the friend, and now someone mentions the friend, the experience comes up. This is how like the web of your mind works, and one bad experience can make you lose out on several like activities that you enjoyed, people that you enjoyed, just by this association, right? So where this comes from, the biggest thing for me was I watched some Tony Robbins video, and if you're interested in the video, just comment below and I'll share the link. But it was a Tony Robbins video where he used the method of double dissociation. So what that is like, you imagine there's the thing that you're avoiding, like the image in your mind, and this you have to do in a calm state. Then you imagine that you're watching this image on like a screen, and then you imagine that the you that's watching this on the screen like is like removed again, so it's like another dissociation. So like you're watching the you that's watching the screen of this event. And my understanding is this creates like an element of safeness. Another thing you can do before you even do this, before you even go into the state, is you put yourself in a safe environment. You look around you, you name five things that you notice, the significance of the things to you, how you feel about them, and you just establish the environment around you, right? That sets a good thing so that you can look at it as, I am here, and the idea of what is like scaring me is not related to now, right? So then you face it, right? You face the thing and you use either scrambling, so you try and break the pattern of feeling how bad this thing is and how associated, like how you're associating negativity with this idea, right? So for me, I needed to break the pattern. So I had to say like, yes, but it doesn't serve me. And what I was like basically assigning like negative emotions to and letting my body get worked up about it, when my body was getting worked up about it, what I had to do was then understand that like, oh, but it's not so deep. My body doesn't need to feel so like intense and like holding on. This is not true. And it's not true currently in like my current reality. So then there's one idea I should not be avoiding, right? So in that way, as Tony Robbins would put it, is you break the pattern, right? Very difficult to do yourself, but if you can get someone else to do it for you, like it would definitely help. And yeah, it's also just that double dissociation helps you separate it from yourself and view it as a thing, as what it is, which is just a thought, right? And when you observe the thought indifferently, with no emotional attachment to it, so no good emotion, no bad emotion, this is perfect, this is terrible, all of that, it's just the thought. It will slip away. Obviously, this takes practice, and that's why I'm saying multiple methods help. Another book that you can read on this is the Courage to be Disliked, and that speaks on Adlerian psychology, and that's a very, very, very controversial book, but a very useful book to understanding the mind, right? It's not super, like, you're not going to learn too much about the mind, but it's just like behavior and how we overcomplicate things. And basically it denies trauma as a whole. And it doesn't deny that like terrible things can happen and it can create these like behaviors and fear and like phobias. But what it says is every time we bring up this thought, by not having the courage to like face it and not having the courage to say, it's past, it's gone, it does not serve me anymore. By not having that courage, we are like allowing it to like feed back into itself and grow into this phobia. So that's why we need techniques to sort of like bypass the steps, to bypass like the fear of it, understand that it's separate, and then we go to this point where we say, well, it's no longer within my reality, I can let this go. And when you let it go, you'll find that you can go back into your day-to-day. The problem is, when you do that, you'll find that there's other triggers, and you can go back to your day-to-day, have another conversation with someone, and find a different trigger for the same thing, right? But the different trigger is not reframed in your mind. So that's what's happening when we pull these things out, right? So for me, like I did this and it still came up. I was comfortable to talk about it, and when I did, if I spoke about it in a bad frame, it reframed it in my mind as this negative thing, and then the avoidance like slowly crept in. So other triggers I wasn't aware of brought that fear response again, and the anxiety and so on. So when you remove all of that, and when you make some progress on it, you really need to just I don't know how to say it, like you need to like trust the process, and you're not going to get all the triggers immediately. It's going to take some time, but the first step of progress is getting over the fear. The second step is like attuning and solving every single fear that comes up, or solving every single trigger that comes up. And if you do that, you'll definitely overcome intrusive thoughts. You'll find that process like deeply like fulfilling, because once you have power over it, you have power over any thought in your mind, right? And you can really shape like the thoughts, the actions you take, your beliefs, and all of your habits when you have control like that. Now, it's not easy, and it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of courage, but you really need to just have that courage to face it and deal with it. Like I said, you can have not like a professional person and speak about these tactics and do the research. Like I'll find the video, and yeah, if you need it, I'll leave it in the comments. But do the research and use these tactics, because you shouldn't let any thought dictate how you live your life. It shouldn't dictate any of your friendships, and it shouldn't cause like a deeper loss in your like grand scheme of things, you know? Like you shouldn't be run by something that's out of your control. You should have power over yourself. So this is a method that has really helped me. So that was the one, the Tony Robbins double dissociation. Then the courage to be disliked taught me like deny the trauma, don't identify it with it. And when you do that, you'll see that you actually have power over yourself. The third thing, and this is like the childish side, but I think it was so ahead of its time, the TV show Avatar, and you can also search on YouTube, there's a video where he speaks on aligning your chakras. And in that little story, it's like a 12-minute video. You can sit and close your eyes, meditate, listen to the video, pause, because he speaks on all the things that block your like line of energy, right? So he'll speak on like the chakra of the base, the stomach, the chest, the heart, the throat, the crown chakra, and the third eye, I think. So yeah, basically watch that video if you want as well. So that's like the third method. Essentially what I did was I sat, I watched through this whole thing, I paused it at the right points, and so the first thing that came up is like, this is the base, it's blocked by fear, it makes, yeah, and basically what are you afraid of? So then you sit there and you just let flow all the things that you're afraid of. You observe it and you let it go. Then it brings up guilt. What are you guilty of? Observe it, like spew out all the things you're guilty of. Let it go. Then like the throat is like to do with lies. Like what are the lies you've said to people? What are the lies you've told yourself? What are you self-denying? And like keep going and then let it go. And when you do that, you embrace all of these things. Okay, so they say that you allow energy to flow fully, but really you're taking back control of your life, you're taking responsibility, and you're letting go of like the tightness in your body. And that's all that it is. When you have like an intrusive thought, there's like a tightness that we give to ourselves, which we don't need to have. So make a difference on that. If you need, I'll link all of these resources. And realistically, man, like, or person, man or woman, we have so much power, from the power of our mind, the power of our body, the power of consistency, and we shouldn't let it be blocked by anything. Nothing deserves to be blocked um, in this system. So obviously self-awareness is key for all of this. You have to be aware of something, like, before you can make a change. But being aware of it doesn't always just solve the problem. So I hope these solutions help. I hope that with making this change for yourself, if you are able to solve any of these problems for yourself, you're able to help someone else along the way. The influence you have from making that one change will lead to people asking what's going on, what's new in your life. And that's a beautiful feeling, but in doing that, you can also impart some wisdom to them and really uplift a lot of people. So thank you for joining, and I'll see you tomorrow.